urgently intervene in the political crisis in Rivers State, warning that failure to act could endanger national peace and Nigeria democratic stability. And according to the chairman of the Elder Forum of CNPP and the coalition of CSUs, Alhaji Baba Abubakar, while reading the statement issued by the groups during the joint press briefing yesterday in Abuja, urged the president to defend constitutional democracy, protect the mandate of the people and Rivers State, and prevent what they describe as a dangerous political precedent. And I think this is not the first time that we have a comment like this going to the president to wade into the crisis that is rocking Rivers State as regards the embattled governor Fubara, and the immediate past governor of the state, who is now the Minister of Federal Capital Territory, some wiki. There have been a lot of back and forth on that, and many people at the corridor of power have been asking the president to wade into this matter and to have a lasting solution to this crisis, because it's been long. This crisis had witnessed the suspension of Governor Fubara. He was reinstated, and after that he defected to the All Progressive Congress, hoping that everything has come to an end and peace will continue to reign. But after that, we have an impeachment motion being moved against the president. A lot is happening, and which people have been calling the president to wade in into this matter.
Yes, when the governor resumed office after the emergency rule that was declared in Rivers State, shortly after that he joined the All Progressive Congress, and one would have thought that that would at least return some form of normalcy to Rivers State, but this hopes were dashed as there were renewed impeachment threats against him, and there have been various voice of reasoning from different quarters as asking that the House of Assembly should sheet their sword concerning this impeachment notice, which has not been adhered to. And there are also indications that the House of Assembly is being weaponized as a tool for political conquest. Rather than doing their normal democratic role, they are focused on getting Governor Fubara out of office. According to the average stakeholder in all of this, they believe that it is only the president who can fix this issue. So we're expecting that the president fixes it. One thing that fears me the most is the fact that before the emergency rule, we saw how things degenerated in Rivers State, and it become a free-for-all system in Rivers State. And I'm worried that we might also be moving to that angle again. So before Rivers State become a state where there's constant
state of emergency
there's constant state of emergency rule being declared in the state. So we need to act and fix all of this. But I mean, it's a political issue, so the politicians should really deal with it and get it over with.
Yeah, we hope that all of this issue will be resolved amicably, because sometimes the silence of the president's mind also mean like it's a state matter and the people at the state level should deal with it. But when the issue has gone beyond what the state can handle, it is expected that the federal government, the presidency, also step in to see how they can resolve the issue. I think as at last week we have four lawmakers who have withdrawn from the motion against the governor of the state. And we, just like you rightly mentioned, that sometimes when issues like this is happening, it makes development not to happen in the state. Just imagine every attention, every focus, whatever that will be deliberated at the State House of Assembly in Rivers State will be about the governor, the impeachment motive, the crisis rocking that state, and nobody is even talking about sponsoring bills on how to develop the state, just as it happened at the national level as well. So we hope that all of this issue will be resolved as soon as possible, and both the State House of Assembly, the governor's house, and every other thing will go back to normal and business will continue as usual. Away from that, let's take a look at something also that has to do with health of Nigerians, as we have a report this morning that 15 million Nigerians consume illicit substances, and that is according to Marwa, who is the chairman and the chief executive officer of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, raising the alarm that over 15 million Nigerians between the ages of 15 and 64 are involved in the intake of illicit drug, while expressing concern that the statistic were nearly 3 times the global average. Marwa, who described the figures as unacceptable, revealed that 1 in every 7 Nigerians in the age bracket consume drugs. And he said this during the courtesy visit to the state capital, lamented that the state was the highest producer of cannabis, in that we have 50 million Nigerians consuming illicit drugs, despite the sensitization orientation as regards the danger that comes with being at 64 involved in the intake of the illicit drugs.
Yes, I think it is not new. There's uncontrolled drugs across the street. Even children are engaged in this, dealing with illicit drugs and all of that. Is we can mop up this illicit drugs. I know that I don't think any nation can confidently eradicate illicit drugs, but then we can mop it up off the streets, that it's not so that Ondo State is also really working hard to ensure that they can control what is going on in their state, considering that they have the dancing of cannabis. And but beyond cannabis, for pay attention to your teenage schools, but this is not the case. It's female. So don't think that, oh, it is only the boy child you should doing, and then know their friends. The parties that be a child. So they say that you drop your child to a party and leave that child unattended, so that she won't allow the children have fun, and maybe so that adults won't. But you can't say parents should not monitor their kids, because a lot that we now have a generation of mothers who really, they have sleepovers, things that were not even they were not common, but already passing around, and you have no clue.
Yeah, even this issue of phone on their phones, because they chat with friends, they talk about things that they are not supposed to. And talking about this issue of substance, I also recall that was what the children do also. But at the point, she just noticed that the boy keeps to herself, he will just be in the room, not knowing that he has been adding something to the drink, because he packs his things, they check his bag, and he brought out the juice from the bag, and it was something else, because it was supposed to be the substances, and it came out to be some maybe narcotic drug or something, and they have to report to the parents who has schools. Let's verify what they are taking, because generation are so smart that they will deceive you to the extent that you will not notice that they are doing something that is illegal. So parents in a time like this really need to be child or children. And lastly, on our trend this morning is this issue of tax. It means a lot of speculations about tax reform. The workers are beginning to receive higher take-home pay following reductions in pay as you earn, that is deduction from the newly implemented tax laws. Maybe have it in mind that there's going to be a huge deduction of payee when they receive their salary, but the chairman of people would have been thinking this is going to happen to their January people, but at least we have a clearer picture of how some of it will look like, particularly for salary earners at all levels.
The interesting thing is that a lot of employees have also been confirming that, saying that their take-home has increased, and then now pay less tax, as opposed to the rumor that have been flying around. We will remember that the federal government began implementing a new tax reform framework and called on the Nigerian Tax Act and the Nigerian Tax Administration Act on January 1, promotes fairness across income groups. according to a daily of small businesses. The 98% of Nigerian workers would also enjoy that. It is expected that this tax will benefit a lot of persons,
Nigerians,
a lot of
exactly.
Nigerians, and the Nigerians should really be patient and see this through before coming out to kick boldly against it.
Yeah, he also noted that approximately 90% of small businesses will be exempt use tax liabilities. So the information is coming clearer now, and I believe Nigeria should take hold of this information, and we should stop passing or spreading false news as far as this new tax law is concerned, because when the whole thing started, people were scared of, oh, there's going to be a reduction, people's life will become unbearable and a lot of that. But now that, just as we saying that, I think what people need is just for them the presidential fiscal policy doing that already. So, and there are feedbacks already. So if all of this tax reform is being patient actually, so we should not be in hurry as trend for this morning. Let's go on a break now, and when we're right back after this break. Thank you for staying with us on Frontline this Tuesday morning. Now let's take a look at what we have on the front pages of national dailies. Barrow close ranks with Kano governor. We have that story on the front page and continues on the inside page. Coup. Indicted officers face death penalty. Details on page 7. Osun governor demands relief on solar grid inverters. Details of that on page 23. Bandits abduct 23 persons in Zamfara. Details on page 9. The workers' strike enters day 6. Details of that on page 6. Arewa think tank backs constitutionalized. The more shall be taken on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper for today.
Above yearly income in major cities. Page 6 has details. GHQ, that's the Defense Headquarters, to court-martial indicted of one's National Assembly. Tax laws. NEPGAD demands probe sanctions over alleged alterations. Officials to vacate local government secretariats. APC tightens grip, sweep Yusuf Muftwang Atiku son in widely realigning. 15 million Nigerians consume illicit substances, Marwa declares. Soludo orders 1 week closure of Onitsha main market over sit at home. That's the much on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
Now on the front page of Daily Times. 4 months after, military admits coup plot against Tinubu. The riders dispute over oil gas wells among states to be resolved amicably. RMAFC. The stories on the front page continues on page 2. Above the nameplate, 2027 running mate. APC dismisses speculations on VP Shetima's replacement. Reforms drive Nigeria reserve above $46 million. We have that story also on the inside page of the Daily Times. Disputes over oil gas well among states to be resolved amicably. RMAFC. The story is on the front page, continues on page 2. PSC received over 400,000 applications for 50,000 police vacancy in 2 weeks. We have that story also on the inside page. The more shall be taken on Daily Times newspaper.
On the front page of the Punch newspaper. Military investigation ends. Defense Headquarters moves to arraign alleged coup plotters on the riders. Military finally confirms plot to overthrow Tinubu government. Inside the plot to breach presidential villa security. Defense Headquarters awaits presidential go-ahead for military tribunal. The details is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Deadly winter storm hits United States. 17 killed, flights grounded. Page 20 has details. 2027. Ganduje assures Yusuf of APC ticket after defection. NDLEA arrests 336. Destroys 207,000 kilogram cannabis in Ondo. Local government power tussle. Osun APC kicks as Adeleke slams Oyetola. Beside the nameplate, Alaafin Shoun absent as Makinde kicks off Oyo 50th anniversary. Above the nameplate, presidential panel recommends freeze on 1 trillion naira rice imports. Strike court decides today as FCT workers demand Wike's removal. Over 400,000 just so for 50,000 police jobs. That's the much on the front page of
Adeleke, APC, Algon in war of words over withheld 130 billion naira local government funds. Details of 2. Awujale's 2. Protesters endorse suspension, demand stiff penalty national licenses. Details on page 8. FCTA strike, cause of Nigerian news direct.
Taking some headlines from the front page of the Nation newspaper. Movement into party. Kwankwanso's son quits EXCO. Tax laws implementation. Shell's planned $20 billion investment driven by Tinubu's policy. This continues on page 2. Diazani's trial for corruption in UK runs into each. President arrives in Turkey. Above the nameplate, NAFDAC's ban on sachet cool. AGF takes over Ozekome's forgery case from ICPC. No plan to replace Shetima.
Court martial. Military to try officers over alleged plot to overthrow government. The riders, powerful forces working to end atrocities. Amnesty International. The rider, we are stepping up military action, intelligence sharing with Nigeria, US Gen. Details on pages 2 and 4. Nigeria recalled first robotic women alarm over non-implementation of 2025 budget. The writers to that story say House approved all loan requests by in democracy. Adeleke tells APC. Decries illegal siege on Osun Council Secretariat. Demands release of withheld 130 billion naira Osun local government fund. Details of that on page 4. Cream cheese. Old mean pasta linked to autism's risk study. Details of that on page 28. Still taking more news headline on New Telegraph. NAS resumption. Constitution review. 2026 budget. Insecurity. Top agenda. Details on page 8. Benue APC crisis deepens as two factions launch parallel e-registration exercise. We have that story on page 30. Atiku's son. Why no one can defeat Tinubu in 2027. Details of that on page 8. Now above the nameplate, custom exceed 2025 revenue targets by 10.6%, net 7.281 trillion naira. Details of that on page 8. And lastly, quarter 4 2025, bank loans to governments up 38.1% to 34.22 trillion naira. The story is on the front page and continues on page 2. Those are the headlines on the front page of the New Telegraph.
On the front page of Vanguard newspaper, panel will ensure fairness due process. All of this is on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. 15 million Nigerians use hard drugs. This is coming from Marwa. Malfection is in best interest of Kano people, says Governor Yusuf. Gunmen abduct 26 in Zamfara communities, set shops ablaze. Tension in Ondo community as gunmen abduct proprietaries, shoot 3. Pages 6 and 7 as details. 30% derivation. Federal government plots coordinates for new disputed oil fields. Osun local government tenure elongation illegal, undemocratic. This is coming from Adeleke. Super Eagles, NSC confirms contract extension. Talks with Chile, meets with NFF Tuesday or Wednesday. And above the 7th, Tinubu's running mate. APC dismisses speculation over Shetima's replacement. When bulldozers mumbled the money point orders to national licenses, that's the much on the front page of Vanguard newspaper.
On Daily Independent, finally, military confirmed. The story on the front page continues on page 2. 15 million Nigerians use hard drugs, says demands release of council's 130 billion naira market. Details on page 6. Rivers APC stronger, demanded end to Rivers impeachment plot. Details on page 6. UK property case, AGF takes over Ezekome. Sorry, I take that again. My rejoining APC better for Kano, Governor Abba Yusuf. The Riders 2020 resigns as Youth Sports Commissioner. We have that story on the front page and continues on page 4. Customs, above the nameplates, claims on replacing Shetima in 2027 utterly baseless. APC. The story on the front page continues on page 9. And lastly, NLC FCTA workers Tom Pike. The stories on the front page continues on page 9. Those were the headline on the front page of Daily Independent.
On the front page of Nigerian Tribune, alleged coup, military to court-martial 16 officers, page 3 has details. Soludo shuts down Onitsha main market for a week over sit at home. Alleged fraud, 3 daughters of Plateau Water Board MD, that's on page 26. Oyo at 50. Marking up Shetima as Tinubu's running mate. This is coming from APC. And on health, Nigeria records first robotic women's gynecology surgery in West Africa. Above the nameplate. With Kano governor's defection, APC now controls 29. Shetima to receive Mufwang into APC today. Pages 15 and 16 has that story. Osun local government areas, tenure elongation illegal in democracy. Adeleke tells it denies allegations. All of this is on the front page of Nigerian Tribune.
Yes, now let's have what we have on Daily Sun. Military opens hub on coup plot against Tinubu. The writers to that story, officers found to have cases answered, will be arraigned before. Details on page 8. Soludo shuts Onitsha main market for 7 days over sit at home. Strike. FCTA workers urged to sustain solidarity as union hails massive turnout in court. Details on page 26. Customs surpasses 2025 revenue target by 679 billion naira, hits 7.28 trillion naira. Ezekome stalled. The riders, AGF takes over Ezekome's trial. Details on page 4. The Sun Awards, Akagburoye, Kenneth Okonkwo express happiness. The story on the front page continues on page 6. And lastly, beside the nameplate, Osun local government Governor Oyetola of using police to lay siege on council secretariats. Details of that on page 10. The much I have on the front page of Daily Sun.
On the front page of Business Day for this morning, Nigeria caught in borrowing web as deficit surges 9.84% in 11 years. The tales continues on page 30 of Business Day. Those 40 stocks could shape Nigeria's next big rally. Check the inside page of Business Day for details of that. 5.3 million unmetered customers trapped in disco federal government standoff. And there's the Business Day market monitor. That's the much on the front page of Business Day for this morning.
And lastly, let's have some sport headlines from the Punch Sport Extra for today. Bassey's dad to son, I'm dying in silence. Details of that story on page 6. Araujo, new Baka captain. Details on page 3. McTominay, physically drained. Details also on page 3. Arsenal ready 100 million euros Alvarez bid. Sunderland Forest Eve Dele Bashiru. Details of that on page 6 as well. Simba open page 6. Fulham goal trees Chukwueze Presiva. Details of that on page 2. Boniface makes Leverkusen return. Details on page 7. Australian Open Kojovic to face Musetti. Details of that on page 8. Ajagba to headline Valentine's Day bout in USA. And lastly, Enekwechi wins Olen Cup in season opener. We have the details of that story on page 2. That's much I'll be taking on the front page of Punch Sport Days. We'll take a break now to allow for news updates by 9 o'clock, and after that, Frontline will continue with the interview segment. Do stay with us.